Good morning. I am Steve Weber, and I am the host of the American Gumption Morning Show. And welcome to Tuesday, November 10th. Today is show number 67, and proud to be broadcasting with my broadcast partner, Spirituality Gone Wild, and also streaming live today on the American Gumption Facebook page and also the American Gumption YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to any or all of those. If you subscribe to the Spirituality Gone Wild channel, you'll see all kinds of other great hosts that do shows throughout the day. So this is, so the day is Tuesday, November 11th, and I've got a great guest. Lauren Archer is returning to the American Gumption Morning Show. She was here back in mid-October, and we're lucky to have her come back again, and we're going to talk about heart coherence, continue the conversation. So that'll be coming up in just a few minutes. Because it's Tuesday, our friend Brandon Schaefer will be dropping in for some simple motivation. And I have a monologue, and the monologue is heart idioms and expressions. I found an interesting article that had 17 different heart idioms and expressions, and we'll get into those, and then that'll tie in nicely with what's going to happen in the with our guest, with Lauren. So that's just coming up now. I had a great conversation with my father this morning, and it had to do with our guest yesterday, Kristen Osley, who is one of the newest hosts, and he was trying to get his head around, well, what exactly were we talking about? What were we having? And I tried an experiment where I tried to explain in a way that that would make sense, and also I kind of got a little bit like I wasn't sure how to exactly explain it. I kind of understood it myself, but I thought, how do you explain it? And the example I came up with is the idea that we are living, we have two worlds. One is the physical world, and one is the other world, the other side. And our physical world, of course, is controlled and by our senses, our sight, our smell, hearing, everything that we can see and touch and hear. And that world, of course, is the world that we live in. And then, but of course, all of the religions, or most, all the major religions talk about an afterlife, some kind of a spiritual world, some kind of a heaven, or whatever term is used to describe what this afterlife is all about. And so I thought, okay, so you have that physical world, and then you have this other world. We'll just call it the other world. And Kristen yesterday refers to it as source energy, and that's a term that I like to use also. The quantum field is another term that I've been using, and so this energy, this other world, coexist. Now, you could believe that it does exist or it doesn't exist, and but in my case, I choose to believe that it exists. Lots of people, do believe that they have some kind of an inner knowing, and then, of course, the religions of the world all speak of some kind of an other side, afterlife, or even pre-life. Right before we get here, where do we come from, and then where do we go to? Where do we return to? So really what Spirituality Gone Wild is all about, and this is my words, I'm just sort of coming to this realization, is that it's really a matter of people who are invested in talking about these two worlds and how do you connect one world with the other world. And so I was thinking, maybe I will do a monologue on that coming up here in the future, and really expand on that idea, and maybe even make some graphics and charts that try to explain that a little bit better, because I think we want to be able to speak about this in a way that makes sense to the physical part of us, and also that somehow connects to the spiritual side of us. So this was so anyway, Dad, thanks for asking that question, and I don't know if I was able to explain it well to you, but it at least in my own mind, I gained some clarity on that, and I thought, gee, that's a great thing, and if we can all back up. the ultimate goal of this is that you want to connect these two worlds, and you want to connect these two worlds while we're living in this world, on the physical world, so that we can have more peace, more happiness, more heaven on earth. And so the people, so someone like Kristen, yesterday's guest, she really focuses on, channeling between those two worlds. Now that, to a lot of people that sounds kind of kooky and far out there. And even she admits that it's not everybody can hear what she says as she goes through those conversations, as she channels and as she connects to that other side. But yet I've seen enough people and heard enough people that I certainly believe that's the truth, and that's the way it is. So anyway, that is I just wanted to share that little bit while I was waiting for Brandon to join us. And so anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Now, I was hoping Brandon would be here before I started my monologue, but I'm going to go ahead and I think jump into that just briefly, and then I'll return to it when he gets here and joins us. So let's see. I'll do a little bit of a screen share here. Whoop! Now I see him coming. So let me just cancel that out, and I will. I am going to welcome our guest, Brandon Schaefer, who comes on Tuesdays and always brings some simple motivation. So let's go ahead and open up with his opening. Good morning, Brandon Schaefer.
Good morning.
How are you?
Steve Weber. How are you? How's life for you?
Life is good. Yeah, things are going really well. And it was funny when I woke up this morning and I was doing my show, and and then at the last minute I went, maybe an hour ago, I went, oh, it's Tuesday. I gotta get ready. So anyway, I'm always grateful that you come in and join us and bring us some fun on and energy. You bring
Nice.
The energy. Where do you get that energy from? Do you have an endless supply, or you're constantly refilling and priming the pump? I think that's what the answer is. You're always refilling.
I'm always refilling the battery, man. I'm always recharging the battery, and I eat good. I don't drink anything crazy. I drink healthy stuff, and I like to work out, and I surround myself with positive people like yourself doing good things, man. So that fuels you up. That's not what I want to share about today, but what I was going to share about today in terms of the motivation and inspiration is actually, what are you doing to build positive business culture? What are you doing to build positive personal culture in your home? I always talk about relaying the two. They both go hand in hand. If you treat people nicely in business, you're going to most likely treat your family nice at home. If you treat your family nice at home, you're most likely going to treat the people you work with nicely. It's not like a light switch where you turn it on and off and say, I'm going to be nice now and I'm going to be mean there. It doesn't work like that. Everything that I talk about is total encompassing your life, right? It's about the mindset in getting in and creating a positive environment for everyone you're around, everybody. So really focus in and take time this week. And I'd say definitely join Steve's daily show. He goes over it time and time again with different experts, all different types of people that come on and share helpful information that's going to help make you a better person and help build you positive business culture, positive personal culture. So that's all I have for today, Steve. I appreciate you allowing me to be on, and I hope you get something from this. I really hope people start buying into this philosophy, this life's philosophy. It's not by error that your success is going to come, right? It's going to come because you know what to do, and then you go out and actually do it.
Yeah, I love what you said about you can't turn being good on and off. You just have to, you have to commit to it 24/7. And my own personal story, and I've shared it many times, is that when I was, doing the Forrest Gump thing, and I was developing the message of the three principles of Gumption, and interacting with others was all about being gracious. And my gracious story occurred to me the day that, like, I was working out on the bench and I was nice to people. And then as soon as I was finished, I went in and I was eating my dinner, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. And somebody came up, and, there was this like little bit of a, like disruptive scene. And I went home and I said, man, I got to be gracious 24/7. I can't do it when, you can't just turn it on and off. Either you are or you're not. So anyway, I love that you shared that, because it's so important that we, we treat others the way we want them to treat us.
Yeah, Steve, and if I can just dovetail off that real quick. So, like, you learned every time when you drove home at night, you always took time to recap your day. If you can do that and you take that lesson, that negative that occurred, like someone comes up and maybe you act out or you say something short or snide or something else, and when you're driving home or when you're on the train that day going home or flying or anything, like, if you can say, hey, listen, I recognize I did something wrong here and I want to do it differently next time. That is progress, right? Exactly. That is progress. So this is great stuff, Steve.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your coming here every Tuesday. We were threatening, we're gonna get you on here to do, a longer segment, and we'll go deeper into this stuff. So, all right, my friend, have a great day.
You too, Steve. Thank you so much.
All righty. All right. There we go. Thank you, Brandon, for joining us. Brandon's business is simplebusinesshelp.com. And what Brandon does is he helps businesses and organizations. You could be a solopreneur, or you can have a medium-sized company, but you have technology and you have different systems of technology. Your salespeople have tools that they're using, and your accounting people have tools that they're using. And if you need those tools to connect to each other to make you more efficient so that you're not duplicating information, Brandon and his team will help you connect that information. So they are digital specialists who basically connect bits and bytes together. There you go. All right. So thanks, Brandon, for joining us. And if you need that kind of help, look up simplebusinesshelp.com. All righty, now let's shift gears and let's jump into my monologue, and then we'll get right into the guest portion, Lauren Archer, coming up in about 5 minutes from now. All righty, so let me do a quick screen share here. And now this is one of Lauren's slides, and it shows the map of consciousness, as she labeled it. And basically there's 4 elements that the heart, okay, we're going to talk about heart coherence with Lauren. The heart connects to to all of these 4 quadrants, and they are the physical, the emotional, and then the intellectual and the spiritual. And the heart is that's that intersection where everything meets and everything connects out. So my monologue this morning, what I did, and so I want you to think of these physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, and I just wanted to share that while I get into this. Now, I have an article that I found, and it's called Heart Idioms and Expressions, written by Kenneth Baer, and I found it at this thoughtco.com website. So thoughtco.com, and then the Heart Idioms and Expressions. And so there was the URL. So this is where this information is coming from. Now there's 17 idioms, and an idiom is basically something that it's an expression that isn't like factually correct, because it would be crazy if it was factually correct. So it means something. It has like a separate meaning from it. And so, but here's 17 about the heart that I found. So you break somebody's heart. And the reason why I wanted to share the physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual is that I'm going to label all 17 of these as one of those or the other. So you break somebody's heart. Well, physically, you don't really break somebody's heart. And that's really more of a emotional thing that happens. So someone gets their feelings hurt, and the definition is to hurt someone, usually romantically, or to cause great disappointment. Number 2 is cross your heart and hope to die. And that I have is a spiritual connection. And the definition is a phrase meaning that you swear that you're telling the truth. So it's like a truth thing. It's your belief that you're connecting with. A spiritual, cross your heart and hope to die. Eat your heart out. To be jealous or envious of someone else. So eat your heart out. I'm going to New York next week. Eat your heart out as an example. And that's kind of an emotional thing that I say. It's like kind of a jealousy is an emotion. It's not a thought per se, and it's not a belief. It's that that emotion. All right. Follow your heart. Do what you believe is right is the definition. Follow your heart. And that's really a spiritual thing. Again, a truth that you might believe in. From the bottom of my heart, and defined as usually used in the first person, this phrase means that you are completely sincere. From the bottom of my heart, it's a truth that you're telling. So that's in the spiritual column. Get to the heart of the matter. Now we're switching into the head part, the intellectual. It's discussing the main issue or the main concern. So get to the heart of the matter. Be half-hearted about something. Again, an intellectual. Be half-hearted about something. Do not take something completely seriously. Just like these idioms aren't really taken seriously. You're not half-hearted about it. You're just you're not completely serious about it. Have a change of heart. Again, an intellectual one, to change one's mind. Have a heart of gold. That would be more, again, in the spiritual realm. Be very trustworthy and well-meaning. So again, that trust factor. Have a heart of gold. Have a heart of stone. Now I'm putting that in the emotional column. You're cold as ice. Nobody gets to see your heart. That's an emotional barrier that you've kept up from your heart. Have a heart-to-heart talk. Again, an intellectual one. Have an open and honest discussion with someone. Have your heart in the right place, or one's heart is in the right place. Have your heart in the right place. To mean well, to have the right intentions. Again, a spiritual definition is how I'm putting that in that column. Know something by heart. Learn something by heart. Intellectual. It's a memorization. It's all brain, that one. Have one's heart set on something, or have your heart set against something. Again, an intellectual. Absolutely want something. Absolutely do not want something. That's made with that noggin right in between our ears, as far as it's a decision that we've made. One's heart misses a beat. One's heart skips a beat. And that's purely emotional. That's, completely surprised by something is how they define that. Pour one's heart out. Confess or confide in somebody. Again, this was a little bit trickier one. Pour one's hearts out, confess or confide in somebody. Is that an intellectual one, or is it a spiritual one of a belief? And I put it as an emotional one. Pour one's heart out. Take heart, have courage. That's definitely an emotional one. Be fearless. Take heart. Have courage. So that is definitely an emotional. So that's it. Those are all 17. And the last thing I want to say about those is I did a tally, and it turned out that 6 were emotional, 5 were spiritual, and 6 were intellectual. So the author did a pretty good job, I think, of catching all 3 of them. Now, it was never a physical thing, because that's what the idiom was all about. It was like, describing the physicality of the heart, but it was really the heart was connecting to the emotional, the intellectual, or the spiritual. So anyway, that's it. That was just sort of a fun, little something different. Never did a monologue like that where I borrowed someone else's work. I'll just throw that back up there one last time. Give the credit to Kenneth Baer, who wrote in thoughtco.com, The Heart, Idioms, and Expressions. So thank you, Kenneth, for that. All righty. That's that. Let's go ahead and welcome our guest, Lauren Archer into the studio for the second time. Welcome back to the American Gumption studio. And it looks like Lauren has her mute button now turned off. How are you, my dear? Hi, Lauren.
Good morning, Steve. I'm great. How are you?
Oh, good. Well, welcome back. It was almost a month ago when we saw you, and I'm grateful that you came back. Let me go ahead and we had that guest welcoming theme, but that's only for first-time guests, so we're not permitted to play that again. But I would like to reread your bio just so people know who you are if they missed that episode. Now, Lauren Archer partners with heart-based entrepreneurs to educate, inspire, and elevate consciousness. She is committed to making a positive difference. Lauren's philosophy is simple. What you put out comes back to you. What you put out comes back to you. She has dedicated her career to making a positive difference while helping others do the same. Lauren not only believes, she knows that one of the few things you can control is where you place your attention and how you choose to show up day in and day out. Lauren teaches people how to focus their minds and manage their energies. She believes that we are at a pivotal point in the evolution of human consciousness. Her aim is to support the highest outcomes in human potential, environmental sustainability, and social justice. Those are excellent, noble goals. If you accomplish those, you will be sainted. Her certifications include clinical hypnotherapist, heart math certified coach, NLP practitioner, cognitive behavior coach, certified personal trainer, health coach, and infinite possibilities trainer. Lauren Archer, welcome back to the American Gumption Morning Show. Great to have you here again.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's always great to be here. And I was talking to a friend of mine last night. You know, I tell you, it's a good friend that, for us women, that will tell you, and there's lipstick on your teeth. And it's also a good friend that will tell you, hey, you've got a typo in your post, and you may want to know about that. So she called one out. And so she picked up the phone and called me, and I was telling her about you. I said, do you know who Steve is? She said, no. And I said, well, he spent how many years? Was it 7 or more? How many years did you do Forrest Gump?
15.
15 years playing Forrest Gump. And she's like, no, he is my favorite because of how heart-based Forrest is in his expression. And he's just transparent and truthful. I was like, yep, that's Steve. And so it's interesting that we're talking about the heart today. And I loved what you brought forward in that heart idioms, because that's in all cultures pretty much, right? Yeah. We all refer to the heart. And, you know, if you ask someone, point to yourself.
We point to the heart.
We don't point here.
Right.
We point here. So anyway, so with your work with Forrest Gump, I would imagine you made some heart connections with people.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky and fortunate to have essentially a job that I sat and I was, for basically 5 hours, I basically connected through the heart with people, one after another. And it was so much fun, and it was so much joy that it was like almost like, you know, overwhelming at times. And, you know, learning how to do that, to keep my energy at a very high level and be present. It was the first time in my life that I had a job where I learned how to truly be present. And so it was. I
would imagine. Yes, because your attention had to be completely focused on the person you were being with. And so when you say learning how to focus your attention, did it take some time? Like, did your mind at first wander off and start thinking about, you know, what time is lunch and things like that? and then did you train yourself, or how did that unfold? I'm so curious.
Yeah. So I had to learn how to kind of be the character, because I knew how to be me. But I didn't necessarily know how to be the character at the beginning. And I felt like I was really acting, and I was acting purely. And then what happened is, as time went on, I was able to, because I got so good at the acting part, I was able to then bring myself into it, and my own personality became what drove the whole thing. And that, I believe, is why it was successful and I lasted for 15 years at it. If I was just purely acting, I think I would have burned out, rather quickly from it. So I brought my own like interpretation and, way of doing it and style. And there were every once in a while I would get somebody say, oh, you don't use the right kind of a Southern accent, or you don't do the thing the way the character did. And so initially those kinds of critiques stung a little bit, but ultimately I realized that if I just did it myself, if I just was Steve hiding behind the mask of Forrest Gump and then doing that interpretation and not trying to, be like a mimic character, then it was fun for me. And people, like 99 out of 100 people, enjoyed it very, very much. So it worked very well. So it was fun.
Yeah, I would imagine. Exactly. It's well, and when I'm coaching a client, it's a similar experience. When I first trained to do some of this attention work back in my 20s, we would do these attention exercises and focus on a candle, right? And try to hold attention on one spot. And it was challenging. It's not easy to do because, in this culture, we have so many distractions and our attention is pulled in so many directions. So training the mind to focus. And the first thing I noticed after practicing this exercise was my conversations with people. I started noticing more of an ability to hold my attention on the person that I was with and how that changed me. Right. It changed my ability to be present and whole. And so that was an outcome of the practice. So yes, where we put our attention and how we show up in presence, it makes a huge difference in quality of life. Very subtle, but it's more peaceful, I think. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I wanted to, you talked about the focusing and the training. I want to pick up on that because the last time that you were here, we talked about the meditation and you've shared that, you kind of have the monkey mind that kind of, wasn't able to concentrate and focus on it. And I, perfectly related to that. I understood that because I've been attempting different meditation practices for the last several years. And like, I would force myself to sit there, but, my mind was going crazy, like, talking about all kinds of stuff in the background. And I don't know what happened after that conversation that we had, but my meditation suddenly kind of became a little more focused. And I've been like concentrating like into the center of my like skull, and like for some reason I'm able to like concentrate, into that brain or into the, pineal gland area and just kind of keep a concentration and a focus there. And I begin to see like little flashes. And I even momentarily saw like some I don't know what to call it, but like almost like messaging kind of things, and it was almost like I was like beginning to crack through into some other kind of a realm. So I just wanted to share that because it was it's what we talked about last time, the meditation and the idea that how do we do this and become it. And so anyway, it was like a little bit of a calmness in the attempt to practice it. And so I'm just trying to relax into it instead of like, force my way into it. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was, for me, that was one of the things that brought me to heart math, because so much of the work that I had done prior to that was all about mind and thought control and thought pattern management. And, you got to change your thinking. And a lot of the stuff that I had trained in and read over the years was words, right? Lots of abstract concepts that, how do you know what to do with that? And that's all well and good. And controlling thoughts is essential. And our thoughts are a very important part of our lives. But usually, like in my coaching practice, what I find is most people in their thoughts, they know what to do. They know that they should be doing something, or, they want to behave a certain way. But when it comes down to it, what stops them from doing it is not their thoughts, it's their emotions. Oh. It's their emotions or their beliefs. And those are largely unconscious. And so what do we do with those slippery things called emotions, right? They can really get in our way. And if you look at all of human history, what has gotten us into the most trouble, right, as human beings? It's those slippery emotions, and or it's the belief structures that are, we think are so true and so right that we're going to fight to the death for a belief, and yet it may or may not be true. So heart math helped me open up a new way of relating to those other parts of self. And so I'm happy to go into that. You brought up that mind map before.
Yeah,
we can look at that.
Let's share that one more time. Yeah, this is, I really liked, and I saw your show, and let's see, before we do that, let's just do one more thing here. I want to give an announcement. Let's see, is that coming up?
It is. I see it. Heart Wisdom Happy Hour.
Yeah. So you started a new program on Wednesday evenings. Go ahead and tell people about that before we get into this, because this map is where I saw that last week. So share with us what you're doing with the happy hour, with the Heart Wisdom Happy Hour.
Well, I find a lot of people right now are feeling isolated and alone, and many of us are kind of stuck in our homes. And I've led online support groups and in-person groups for many, many years. And and in my own life, I think I have had the most profound transformations by being part of an ongoing group, a place where, we can show up and you can say, this is what's going on for me right now. And you could hear what other people are dealing with and processing. And it just builds a sense of community. So I created this Heart Wisdom Happy Hour. It's just a 1 hour free event that I do live on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific. And it's going to be a little something different every week. So sometimes I'll do a little presentation like I did last time, where we go into some information about the heart and ways to practice. And other times it'll be a guided mindfulness practice. And other times it'll just be sharing and people speaking into what it is that they want to create or what they're dealing with. And it just is a wonderful way to take time out from the chaos of the world and tune in to what's happening in your heart and tune up your happiness level, because we could all use a little burst. And, as we're all feeling better and happier, peace starts from within. That starts to ripple out into the world around us. So that's what that's all about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. And it was great. And you talked about it being, you said that you're going to do a variety of different show formats, the lecture format. I did not see it live, but I went back and saw the replay. And when I saw this chart that we just shared and what we're going to share again, I went, oh my gosh, I saw it and I went, that's exactly right. That's the way, I've been learning to, understand all of this. So I really appreciated your sharing that. The easiest way is probably just to go to laurenarcher.live to find a connection to either your YouTube channel or you're broadcasting elsewhere too, or how do people find the actual show on Wednesday night?
Yes. Go to laurenarcher.live, and at the top menu, there's one that says Happy Hour. So click on Happy Hour and it'll take you to the registration page. And you can also see the little video introduction I did. So it's got some frequently asked questions and a little bit about the heart. Yeah.
All righty. Well, good. Well, good luck with the show. We'll be watching on, today is Wednesday. So,
is it today? No, today's Tuesday.
Oh, today's Tuesday.
I'm like, wait, not today, tomorrow.
Sorry. I know it's Tuesday.
It's all good. Every day is Tuesday these days, right?
That's right. All right. So anyway, this chart, tell us just a little bit about it. I know it's something that you didn't necessarily maybe invent, but you have your own interpretation of it. So just share what you were thinking when, the map of consciousness and the different quadrants, and maybe a little bit about what each one means to you and how we might think about it.
Yeah, well, so as I mentioned, most of the mindfulness and the training that I had done in personal growth and development in my early years was focused on thought. It was focused on mind. And, what is mind? And we used to think, or many of us think mind is intellect, right? That's what we equate it to: brain, linear, rational. But in the hypnotic world, we know that mind also encompasses the subconscious. And they say that we're about 5 to 10% conscious and 90 to 95% unconscious or subconscious. And so when I sit with a client as a coach and a hypnotherapist, I have to have a way to represent what's happening in their world. And I believe that every individual has a certain architecture of what's happening in their mind. And for some people, for example, somebody who's into golf, they're going to have a lot of focus, a lot of areas in their architecture about golf, the places they go, the relationships they have, the books they read. It's all going to be focused on golf. Whereas somebody who is not a golfer, maybe they've got an old pair of clubs somewhere in the way back of their garage, right? And so golf is not going to have a big place in their psychic architecture. So when I look at how do I map that, how do we understand that, this model with a compass and the 4 directions has been passed down from generation to generation in a lot of indigenous cultures. And it represents, earth, air, fire, water. The north represents the winter and the physical for the most part, and the dark, right? The east represents the spring and the rising sun and morning and the air. And the south represents the high noon and the fire. And that kind of spirit energy. The west represents the water, the setting sun, evening. And so, you start to see these patterns in nature. And then Carl Jung took this map and used it in a lot of his psychological work. And then it went on to be used in sports psychology as sports psychologists worked with athletes to try to help them master their energy. And so if you think of these as energy levels, and we each experience life in all of these quadrants. So the mind is more than the intellect. The intellect is just one little portion of it. The mind also includes the body, the emotions, and the spirit. But the heart is that one organ that connects all 4. And this is what I found so amazing. So it's obvious that the heart is in our physical body, right? Because it's pumping blood and it's, breathing life into us, circulating oxygen, all of those wonderful things. It's also part of our emotional life, because when we feel happy, sad, grief, if we feel heartbroken, as you mentioned in your monologue, all those different qualities, those are emotional qualities that we sense and feel with our body. And the heart's tapped into our neurochemistry. So emotions are usually chemical responses that we have in the body. Intellectually, we tend to not think the heart is intellectual. However, over the last dozen or so years, there's a new field that's popped up called neurocardiology. And we understand now medically that the heart contains intelligence cells. It contains neurons, and more information goes from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So it doesn't process information verbally the same way the brain does, but it does process information. And in fact, people who have had heart transplants often report many similar tendencies and inclinations that the original donor had, and those memories are stored in the heart. And then finally, this last quadrant, which, when you think of religion and spirituality, most of the world's religions talk about the heart and have the heart as a center focus. But today in our secular world, how do we relate to that? Well, it's not just about what we believe spiritually, but it is what gives us a sense of meaning and value and purpose. What's important? How do you define what's meaningful to you? And that is a quality that you feel in your heart. And so starting to see how this all came together really helps me understand when I'm working with a client. And then when I show people this picture, I see a lot of heads nodding. People are like, oh, yes, I understand it, right? Because it's hard to separate, like, okay, what are my thoughts and what are my feelings? But when you can lay it out on a map and start getting a sense of it, it takes on more dimension. So I'll pause there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's we were taught, or at least I was taught, and I that the heart was just this physical thing, there's that one quadrant, and yet all of those expressions that I shared are something that we all know, and yet every one of them, connected to either the emotional, the spiritual, or the intellectual. None of them really were true. They were because to break somebody's heart, it's or I'm heartbroken. I mean, we all know what that means, but it's
Well, physiologically, that is a real thing. I mean, it's a real thing. There is pain. People feel physical pain in the heart as a result of emotion. And one of the things, so, when I work with weight loss, for example, or pretty much any habit change, a lot of people get stuck in coping habits like emotional eating or drinking too much alcohol or even shopping too much or smoking cigarettes, whatever it is. People turn to these coping habits as a way to get some emotional relief. And so how do we use this to help people find their way to the other side of that? And to me, it's understanding the life cycle of an emotion. And so an emotion starts in the body, right? We have a physical experience. So it starts in the body, and we tend to want to quickly bring our mind in and label it and say, this is, that's guilt, or that's worry, or that's shame, or that's fear, or that's anger, right? Or that's frustration. And yet, if we were to pause long enough to say, okay, what am I feeling in the body? And get in touch with the feelings first, because the role of the body is to be a conduit and to help us gather information. And so then we check in, and then we might bring our intellect in to say, okay, what do we think this emotion is, right? We want to label, where am I feeling it? Is it anger? What else is connected with it? Is there some sadness or some hurt or some rage? So really getting into the quality. And so that's all well and good. But then when we connect that with the spiritual and we say, why is this important? What about this is meaningful? What is this showing me about my values? Because if I didn't value this, if this wasn't important to me in some way, I wouldn't feel this way, right? I wouldn't feel strongly about it. And so those two quadrants, the emotions and the values, are connected. And when we bring our intellect in and we go, okay, now I'm gonna feel what I'm feeling in the body. I'm gonna process the subtle clues, okay, get the different qualities of the emotions. And then when we connect it with our values and say, what am I making this mean? What is important to me about this? What does this show me about my values? Then that's where we can use that information and do some real work. And, it takes a lot more coaching than that, but it clearly, takes the victim out of the energy, and immediately you can go, oh, okay, so I'm feeling this must mean something, or I'm making it mean something. So what do I want to do with that? Right. And then it puts you in an empowered position to be able to make choices.
Lauren, we have our mutual friends and guests checking in. Bettina and Tamara both are watching and saying hello, and Christine Coswell welcomes you back to the show. So, we have a circle of people that we run around with. The as Brandon said, to keep our positive energy up high. So we're grateful for them joining us this morning. So welcome to those folks. And I wanted to just touch on the emotional part, because I've really come to understand the physiological part of emotion. So emotions are that physical, or what happens to the body. So the chemicals that run through our body that get produced when we have those strong emotions, they really are in the body and running around. And cortisol, as just one example, the chemical of stress, and then what that has an effect on our body. So if we live a life or in high stress all the time, elevated levels of cortisol, that ends up affecting the body, wearing out certain portions of the body, causing, stresses or strains on parts of the body that then become actual physical ailments.
So true. And they say you teach what you most need to learn. So I did not come into the world knowing all of this. And I have actually dealt with heart issues myself, self-inflicted by a lot of stress over something that I cared about. Right. And it having a system like this where I could analyze it and come back to center and find ways to deal with it has been really helpful for me. But yes, and the emotions that are most damaging are the ones that we pay attention to all day long. Because animals can get that stress and they can shake it off in no time and be just fine. But human beings, we can sit there and think about stress and just worry about what's going on in our lives that might be stressing us out. And then it's like having an IV drip of cortisol all day long. Yep. And that's where attention becomes really important. And I also look at this map, so I'm modeling something called the Archer method. And so if you look at this map as not just a compass, but a target, right? And if you're aiming your attention at something in life, you want to aim your attention at the center of all of those. So what would it feel like for you to, physically feel your best, to feel emotionally stable and centered and calm, to be living your life in alignment with your values, and intellectually, choosing to focus on what's important. That is the ultimate goal, in my opinion. And the beauty of this is whenever we start veering off, let's say we catch ourselves worrying too much about outer appearances, for example, or worrying too much about what other people think, that pulls our attention off. And just like in sports, right? In racing, bike racing, car racing, you're going to go where your attention is. You're going to go with what you're looking at. So it's important to learn. And when you veer off, we don't judge ourselves. We don't say, oh, that's wrong. I was just, I was doing it wrong. We pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, check that out. You just noticed that you were looking off in the wrong direction. Okay, now we're going to re-aim that attention back to center, focus on the heart. It's not just what we're thinking, it's what we're feeling.
Yeah. Now, my intention and my attention is to letting you get done a few minutes early today so that you can, jump right into your next meeting at the top of the hour. So I just have a couple of more slides that you had shared last Wednesday that I'd like to show. And you'll just say a minute or two about each one of these so we can get you out of here on time. But the heart is really the first organ that develops in the fetus.
Yeah. We are so brain dominant in this culture, but when you look at the forming fetus, the heart is first. And so it's primary in terms of who we are becoming.
So we'd have to kind of go against nature to believe that the head is the most important part, and yet it wasn't developed first. So nature formed the heart first, and so hey, that you said primary. So love that.
Absolutely, yes.
And then now this slide here. Go ahead and tell us what you're thinking here.
Yeah, well, for those who align with the Eastern philosophies that believe in the chakra system, we have 7 chakras, and the heart is in the center, and it connects the upper 3 from the lower 3, and it creates. I mean, it channels the information back and forth, so it's a vital source of energy flow.
When I first learned of the chakra system several years ago, a decade more, I thought, oh, this is crazy, and yet, of course, I've studied it more and begun to understand it, and now realize it. And the bottom 3 energy centers are really the physical ones. And then the upper 3 are really more into the intellectual and the spiritual ones. Do you want to say something about that?
Nope, that was it. You summed it up well. I'm not an expert on the chakra system. There are some Western cultures that believe that, well, there's no real evidence, but if you think of them as energies, not necessarily organs, it is a helpful way to think about how you're using your energy in the life.
Yeah, and I've heard other people talk about them as energy centers, and they prefer not to use the term chakras, just that connection to the Eastern. Well, I don't know, maybe because of just like some people choose not to, talk too much about any specific religions, just because that tends to trigger too much energy that we've been taught from very young, and we don't want to challenge anyone's belief systems that way, but we want to have a conversation that talks about these things in a way that opens it up and expands the whole conversation. All right, last slide is the heart is the portal between your internal and external worlds.
Yeah, this one, we could probably do a whole episode on this one, because so in this image, if you think about that golden line, right, as being time, and you're aiming towards the future, and you've come from the past. And what do we talk about in mindfulness? We talk about being present. That means not focused on the past, not focused on the future, but being right here, right now. And if you accept that the possibility that you extend as far deeply inward as the universe extends outward, the heart is that one organ that bridges the gap between the two. And that's like, you could just contemplate on that all day. You could do a whole meditation on that.
Well, very good. And I in my own personal life, I know that as I began my consciousness raising and awareness, I realized that I had, being the thinker, I had put an awful lot of energy on the future. And, when this happens, then I'll be able to celebrate. And everything was like kind of a future-based thing. And then, of course, there was still lots of past stuff, but there wasn't enough of that energy being focused right in the here and now. So anyway, this is wonderful. I think we better wrap up, because I want to keep my commitment to you and get you out of here so you can be ready to go for your next meeting. Any last words? I would just encourage people to, to check in on Wednesday nights for here it is, the Heart Wisdom Happy Hour at 8 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. Pacific. You can go to laurenarcher.live.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was so wonderful having this conversation with you. I look forward to the opportunity to come back and meet with you again.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you later.
All right. Take care.
All righty. Well, that was Lauren Archer. Isn't she wonderful? Helping us, learn about how the heart connects to the not just the brain, but to the body and to the outer world, which we all are connected to. So anyway, that's it. Check out our happy hour wisdom, our Heart Wisdom Happy Hour on Wednesday evenings. That is something that you'll get a kick out of or learn from. And that's pretty much a wrap on that. I think we're going to go ahead and just end this show a few minutes early. Thank you, Lauren, for joining us. And Yeah, I just think it was a great conversation. Now, last thing is I want to just mention that on Friday, Jerry Potter will be joining the American Gumption Morning Show, and his brand is the 5-minute social media, and he is a expert at helping people focus on what is their goals and how do they want to communicate on social media to advance their business objectives. And so anyway, he's going to join us and we'll talk about that. Now, I do have a show scheduled for tomorrow and Thursday. I do not have guests currently, so I may end up doing a monologue tomorrow, depending on what happens, and maybe we'll have a guest on Thursday. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Let's see, there's one more comment. We'll see if I should. So Bettina checks in and she says that she loves focusing, attention on intention. I love focusing my attention on my intention. Beautiful interview. Thank you so much, Bettina. And thank you for the work that you're doing to make this world a better place and to help people break through the earnings glass ceiling that your brand represents. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Have a great day. We sure do appreciate your coming here. I thank Lauren for joining us today, and thank Brandon for his simple business help, his simple motivation. The words that he just, he energizes me, and I'm grateful that he's part of the American Gumption Morning Show on a regular basis. All righty, that is it, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow.